You're shopping, you see a cute nightgown, but there is no support up here. And it's uncomfortable if there's no support. I know you ladies out there know what I'm talking about. Well, I have a solution for you. We're going to use a bra that already fits you great, and we are going to turn it into a nightie nightgown in a few easy steps. And all you really need to complete this project is some fabric that matches your bra and some sewing supplies that I know you already have. And for you bralette fans out there, this also works great for a bralette. Real quick, before we get started, if you're enjoying Sewing Anastasia, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about sewing, well, make sure you check out my online sewing classes and my in-person classes. There's links down below. So once you have your bra or your bralette that you're going to be using, you're going to want to find some fabric that matches it. And I'm going to suggest that you use some lightweight chiffon because it's really pretty and dainty. But you could also use a jersey or a solid fabric as well if you don't want to be able to see through it. And when you're buying the fabric, you're going to want between a half yard and a yard. It's really going to depend on how long you want it and how poofy do you want to make it. Today I'm making one that's not super poofy. Today I'm using a poly chiffon fabric and I think it matches this bra perfectly. I love it. Before we cut our fabric, we need to take two measurements. We want to measure from under the bra for the length down. And I'm going to make mine about 18 inches long. And then we want to measure the bottom band of the bra stretched out while it's on you. And this one here is about 28 inches at the underband. Now, when we're cutting this rectangle of fabric, we don't want it to be 28 inches in width, otherwise it's not going to fit over our hips, and it's just going to be like a tight tube. And if you don't have stretchy fabric, well, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to recommend that you double the measurement that you got for the underband. Anywhere around double, little more, little less. This is going to give you a really nice flow. Now that I have my measurements, I'm going to cut out my fabric. So I have my fabric cut out for the nightie. And what we want to do first is finish all of our edges. So we don't want all of these frayed edges around our fabric. I'm going to serge my edges. You don't have a serger, you can zigzag it or overcast it. And both of those stitches should definitely be on your sewing machine. If you are using a zigzag stitch to finish your edge, make sure that your zigzag is narrower and shorter, so that way it doesn't bunch up the delicate fabric. We're going to serge all these edges so nothing frays while we're wearing it or washing it. Now we're all done serging. Now that my edges are finished, it's time to get this together. To be able to get in and out of this nightie real easy, we need to make sure we leave a keyhole in the back where the hook and eyes are. So we're going to leave a keyhole in the seam. We're going to put the seam at center back. Let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to fold my fabric right sides together and line up what would be my center back seam. I'm going to pin the top here together so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to measure down 5 inches and I'm going to put another pin. So this 5 inches here is going to be my keyhole. And now I'm going to pin the layers together, going all the way down to the bottom. So now when we start sewing, we're going to start sewing at that 5-inch mark and go all the way down to the hem. So I'm starting at the bottom of the keyhole and I'm going to be sewing this up with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You could do a half or a quarter, it's really up to you. When you get to the bottom, don't forget to backstitch. Now that you have that seam complete, we're going to finish sewing the keyhole. So now here is the keyhole, the opening at the top. And what we want to do is flip it back the width of your seam allowance. So mine was 3/8. So I'm going to iron that down 3/8 and then we're going to stitch it down. Sew across the bottom and then sew back up the side. So we're going to have this little finished keyhole edge. So I'm just going to give this seam here a quick press back so it's easier to sew. And now you can see exactly where we're going to sew. So I'm going to be stitching this down from the inside. Now when I get to the bottom where that opening is, I'm going to leave my needle in, lift up my foot, and I'm going to sew across the bottom. And then I get over to the other side where the serge is. I'm stitching right in the middle of the serge. I'm going to sew up. So all the way up to the top, add your back stitches and cut. Our keyhole is looking beautiful and finished. Now we need to add 2 rows of basting stitches all the way around the top. This is going to allow us to gather up the fabric. A basting stitch is a temporary stitch. It's a straight stitch with a really long stitch length. I'm going to be using a 5mm long straight stitch when I do this. I'm going to add my first row of stitches 1/4 inch away from the top edge. And make sure you're not back stitching. And while you're doing this, if you are using a delicate fabric and it wants to gather up, I want you to hold it in the back so it doesn't gather while you're adding the basting stitches. When you get to the end, don't backstitch and then pull out maybe like 6 or 7 inches of thread. And now we're going to start at the beginning again, and I'm going to add another row of basting stitches 1/4 inch away from that last set. And again, don't let the fabric gather up on you while you're doing this. If you need to, just hold it in back a little bit. And when you get to the end, don't backstitch and leave some long thread tails. Now it's time to gather up the fabric and pin it to the bra. So if you've never gathered something before we start gathering, we want to mark where center front is and where the side seams are with the fabric flat. So that way, when we gather it all up, we can match up those points on the bra. So that way we know we have all of the gathers evenly dispersed. So for marking it, you can use chalk. I'm just going to use a pin here so I know that this is my center front. I'm also putting a pin on the side seam on the right and on the left. And now we can start gathering. Let me show you how to do that. The basting stitches are going to allow us to gather up the fabric, but you can only hold the 2 top threads or the 2 bottom threads. I'm going to hold the 2 top threads and I'm going to pull the fabric down the stitches. And you can see it starts to gather up. So I'm going to gather up half from one side and then I'll do half from the other side. And you can see that that pin just keeps moving, so it's not going to be in your way if you used a pin to mark your side seam. Now I didn't make my fabric super gathery for my bra, so I'm going to stop there for that side. And now I'm going to come over here to the other side. And right now you're not gathering it up to an exact science, you just want to gather it enough so that way it's easier to pin to the bra. And when we're pinning it, we can always gather it more or let out some of the gather as well. So now I'm going to grab the 2 top threads on the other end and I can hold those and gather up the fabric from this side. This gather's looking pretty good. Now let's pin it to the bra. So I'm going to start pinning at center front. So I'm going to find the pin I put for center front. I'm going to line up with center front of the bra. Now, when we're doing this, we want the gathers and the serge to be hiding under the bra. So I'm going to pin where that center front pin is from the outside, and now I can remove that pin from the back side. So now what we're going to do is work our way across the front, and when I get to that side seam pin, I'm going to line that up here with the side seam of my bra. And now I know I can gather up the fabric a little more in between these 2 pins. You can also move the gathers around and make them look even. So we want to pin everything up under the bra. And right here by the underwire, I can't pin into the underwire, so I'm just pinning horizontally to keep that together. Okay, now I'm going to turn the bra over. So we're gonna have to pay attention to a few things on the back when we're pinning this in. So when we put the back on top, we wanna make sure that the keyhole here is starting at the first bar of hooks. If you know you always wear your bra though over here on the end, you could definitely bring it over there to the end. But I'm gonna wear it on the first row, so I'm going to place that right there. and pin that in. Now you're gonna notice the back of your bra might be stretchy. And if it is, when we sew this, we are going to be stretching it and sewing it on. But for right now, I'm just gonna roughly pin these gathers in place without stretching it. There we go. Look at how nice and cute that is. Oh my gosh, I'm in love. Now that we have one half of it pinned in, we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. So go ahead and pin in your other half. It's pinned up and it is looking so cute. I'm obsessed. So we're gonna have to sew this in two different steps because the front is woven and the back is stretchy. So I'm gonna show you exactly what stitches you should be using to do that, so that way it fits perfect. So first I'm sewing the woven fabric on the front of the bra to the gathered piece. And I'm going to be using a straight stitch with a stitch length of 2.5. So I want to keep the stitch pretty close to the bottom edge of my lace, so that way we don't get any little like flaps of fabric. Do make sure you're back stitching here. And if you've got boning in your bra, make sure you avoid sewing over that boning right now. As we're sewing, make sure you remove your pins before you get to them. Engage your needle down button if you haven't yet today. And you can still move these gathering stitches around because we basted them on. And if you do have an underwire in the bra, be really careful that you don't hit it with your needle. I'm also going to show you later how to take the underwire out of the bra if you don't want to be sleeping with an underwire in your bra. Backstitch when you get to the side seam and cut. So now we're moving on to the stretchy side here, and you can see they have the broken zigzag stitch there, so we're also going to use our broken zigzag stitch. Now again, just avoid sewing into that boning. You can sew below the boning with a straight stitch or a zigzag. You can see there's already stitches there. Just make sure you're not going to hit it up here in the side seam. So I already have my straight stitch going to here, so I'm going to start right on the outside of that boning. And when we do this, we need to make sure that we are stretching the fabric. So stretch your knit and add that broken zigzag right over the one you see right there. Also, don't forget to backstitch. We're gonna work our way all the way to the back of the bra. Take out your pins when you get to them. Move your fabric around if you need to adjust it at all. Make sure your gathers are nice and even. Come all the way to the bottom of that fabric. Make sure you add your back stitches. And let's take it out. Now we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side of the bra that also stretches. Sewn in beautifully where we have the straight stitch and the broken zigzag. And look how the bra still stretches. We have one more step, and that's to hem our little nightie. Let me show you how we're going to do that. Since this is a chiffon, I'm going to add a little rolled hem. So I'm just going to fold it up right past the serge, fold it over again, and then stitch it down. And we're going to stitch right at the edge of the fold. You could also add a single folded hem where you just flip it up once and stitch it down. That might be easier for you depending on the fabric you're using. So I have it rolled over twice, and I'm going to add that little edge stitch on the left. And I'm just going to keep rolling it as I go. Overlap your stitches, add a few back stitches, and now we're done. We are all finished. Let's take a look at it and go over everything we learned and then try it on the dress form. Look at how super cute this is. You would never know that this wasn't a nightie before. The fabric matches great, our stitches blend in effortlessly, and our hem looks fantastic too. And this nightie looks so good on the dress form. I love it. Throughout this process, you learned so many things. You learned how to properly measure your fabric for the bra that you're wearing. And if you wanted it super poofy, like 60s baby doll style, all you need to do is gather more fabric to it. Or maybe you don't want it as poofy, just gather less fabric to it. It's that easy. So you also learned that you need to use that straight stitch on the front, and you need to make sure you're using that zigzag stitch on the back where the stretchy part of the bra is. You also learned how to create that little keyhole, and this makes it easy to get on and off. And you also learned how to hem the beautiful chiffon. And if you are making a bralette into a nightie, you're going to use your broken zigzag stitch all the way around because it stretches all the way around. And if you want to make a bralette into a nightie, I've got this pattern on my website. Check it out, extra small through 6X. And if you were wondering how to get these underwires out, these 2 rows of bar tacks here, so these 2 rows of zigzag stitches, you're gonna seam rip those open, and then your underwire is just gonna pop right up out of the top. So the underwire is in this casing here, just hanging out in there. So all you need to do is undo those and it'll pop right out. And if you create this upcycle, I would love to see your take on it. What kind of bra, what kind of fabrics are you using? Make sure you tag me in your photos or join the Discord and post them in the Discord. Or join my sewing club and you get access to the Discord and you can post all your projects in there and share them with everyone. Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. If you have any questions about the project, leave it down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you're not already a subscriber, well, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when all the new videos come out every single week. So much sewing around here. And don't forget, I teach classes online and in person. Check those out through the links down below in the description. And if you want to know what's going on in the studio, well, make sure you follow my Instagram stories. Thank you so much for watching today. Bye!